All right, cool. Can everyone see my screen? Check a yes. In the comments if you can. Check a no if you cannot. I'll switch it up. But we're going to be going over an upsell sequence. So this is I'm going to go over the upsell sequence for email. Sorry, for Pixel, and then I'm also going to go for audience. Now this thing's lethal because essentially what it does is you can take a client that, let's say they're paying you like $500 a month, and you can probably 2 to 3x the amount they're paying you, but also 2 to 3x the amount of value that you're giving without doing a lot of extra work. Okay, so honestly, as I was writing this, I felt like I was a teacher writing those guides because I put a hypothetical in here, like an actual hypothetical to go through and show you what this email looks like. But we're going to be doing a bit of math and using our forecast generator here. Now we're going to be going over identity resolution, and then we're going to be doing what I call the traffic switch. The traffic switch is essentially where you find a client that is spending a lot of money on a traffic source. Usually Google Ads is the most common one. And then switching it up and saying, all right, well, instead we're going to do intent data, but we're going to do this way instead. Usually it's switching them from Google to Facebook, I find is the most common one, but it can work for other stuff like email. Obviously, as we get into stuff like SMS, if you're doing it compliantly, it can get into that stuff too. So the first thing you want to do is, and again, this is for existing clients you might have. Okay, so I'm going to get into how to do this in a cold outreach way as we get into more about the MVP, and that's going to be another workshop. It's kind of going to be a bit of a series, but this is if you have any existing clients. Now, this can be a client on a trial. This could be somebody that you've spoken to. It doesn't have to be someone that's already paying you. It just has to be someone that you already have some kind of connection with, because the style of the email is kind of like coming in mid-conversation. All right. So let me just zoom in on this. The first email that you want to send is called the data opportunity, and this is the opener, right? So let me just zoom in here. So the subject line just says data opportunity, and it says, hey, name. I just recently invested in building an internal data services team, which will help us access targeting outside of just social ads, Facebook, IG, YouTube. This means we'll have billions of data signals to use and can get very refined in targeting. Okay. We have also invested in building a tracking system which collect more data from ad platforms due to their privacy restrictions. I think this could be a massive needle mover and just put the campaign in whatever you're working on, as we could reduce ad costs, increase quality of traffic, and potentially 2x sales without additional ad spend. Would you open to me running an audit on our existing strategy to see what potential results this could look like? If this is someone that, is not currently paying you, or someone that you've been speaking to, it can work as a reactivation sequence. You just want to be like, in this part here, in the campaign, you just put something different, like just put in move it for what we discussed on the phone or what we went over the other week, right? But this one's lethal. I mean, this is going to reactivate a lot of people. Okay. Now, what happens, the reason why you need to kind of deal with them here is because what you're going to do is you're going to place the pixel on their website. For those that are new, we have something called an identity resolution pixel. Essentially what it does is it takes anonymous traffic and it matches it to about anywhere from like 30 to 60% of human traffic, and it matches it to a database that we have, and it tells you who they are, right? And it unlocks all the data points about them. It's super cool because you can put the pixel on a website that's getting 10,000 hits a month, and then you can resolve, 3,000, maybe 5,000 of those people, and then run retargeting sequences on email and things like that, and bring customers back. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the pixel upsell. Okay, so a bit of prep work. All you need is you just need to put the pixel on the client's website. That's it. If you don't put the pixel on the client's website, that's okay. You can just, I guess, and you can say, here's what we got for another client. So if this is a roadblock where the client's like, no, I don't want you touching the website, just tell me what it is, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. You can just run a hypothetical and say, on our last client, we got 30% match rate. You really just need to know match rate, and that's about it. But you need to know a little bit about the client. So this is why it's good for existing clients, because you should have this handy and you should actually already have access to their website. But again, if this is a reactivation sequence, you just need to ask this from the client. So you just need to know monthly traffic, cost per acquisition, the sales conversion rate, Now, the sales conversion rate is on a whole. So in this particular forecast, we don't go really granular, like we have site conversion rate, sales conversion rate. It's just what is your sales conversion rate, as in like averaging out of cold traffic or people that hit your website, how many people do you actually close? So, you know, if they usually close 20% of people they speak to on the phone, you're probably going to narrow that down to like 5% average of people that land on the website. And then deal value, you know, how much they get from a deal. Okay. Then we're going to put in our stats, which is the identity resolution match, verification percentage, re-opt-in percentage, and reactivation sales. This is going to be the same as their sales conversion rate, and it's going to give us a quick little forecast to see. So from there, we're going to put in our own charges, and we're going to make it make a lot of sense where they're making money no matter what, and that we're getting paid out of the profits. So I have put together a quick little example. Now, before I release this forecast, we're just going to pressure test this finally at the end of today, just to make sure everything's working. I tested again this morning, but anything can happen with this spreadsheet. So keep that in mind. But essentially, let's say you've got a HVAC company. This is a pretty extreme example. I just want to do this I did one extreme and then one not as extreme. But let's say you've got Greg's HVAC, a national brand, and they sell HVAC services. They spend $240,000 per month on Google Ads, right? Which I know a lot of companies that are doing like that, especially in like HVAC and those industries. It costs him $800 to acquire a job, which is $2,300 in revenue. Okay. Now, most people would look at that and they'd be like, I can't really help this guy. Like, there's nothing else I can really do there, but you are mistaken. So he generates 10,000 visitors every month through targeted Google Ads, right? So that means he's spending like $7 cost per click, which could be on the high end, but this is HVAC, so just did a hypothetical. And his overall sales conversion rate is around 3%. Okay, remember, this is people that go on the website compared to, sorry, his cost per click is about $24 because it's HVAC. And then that close. All right, so this is how we help him. So we're going to place a pixel on his site, and let's say we're going to match it at 30%. All right. Then what we're going to do is look at how many of those leads we reckon we could re-opt into a booking or a lead. Then we're going to apply the same conversion rate that he's getting to those, because it's going to be just in his same sequence. It's going to be just a normal booking sequence. And then we're going to put in our fees. So if I go over to here, I put in the traffic, the cost per acquisition. This is what he's paying currently per customer. I put in the conversion rate, right? The sales conversion rate, which is 3%, the deal value. So that means he gets 300 sales a month. That's $690,000 in revenue for $240,000 spend. Okay. Most people look at that and be like, there's not really any way I can help this person. But if we look further, that's 9,700 people that are on his site that he's paying for, that he hasn't done anything with. We match 30% of those people. That's 2,900 people that we've matched up. Let's say we do a quick scrub and maybe 80% are like re-verified, like we do a skip trace or something. That's 2,300 profiles we can reach out to. If we can get 15% of those people, like if they're already on the website and then we just follow up with them, this won't be just one email. This will be a nurturing sequence as a whole. And that's 349 people that we can get to re-opt in, apply that same sales conversion rate, and that's 10 extra sales. That is 24,000 a month in recovered revenue that we can get this client, right? Doing not a lot of work. Like, we'll get into more about fulfillment and things like that, but the way that you have, when you have the pixel set up, all you need is a simple reactivation sequence, or you could just have them call the leads if you really want. You could do it that way too. So then we put in our fees. We go, okay, so let's do a pixel license fee of $1,000. Let's say $3,000 a month for us to be able to do the reactivation, right? That covers us maybe going through doing a high-level reactivation, doing email. Maybe we're doing some kind of like compliant SMS, something like that. And then we'll take 5% of performance. Okay. So that means the client spends a total of $5,200 per month with us. They still profit $18,000. Now, the cool thing here is they don't have to do anything, right? Like in everything else, like all these offers where it's like, hey, yeah, you know, if we don't perform, you don't pay, all this stuff. It's like they still have to invest in ads. You know what I mean? Or they still, even reactivation campaigns, they're still running the risk of you burning their existing leads. So this is a complete no-brainer for them to get new money that they couldn't get before. Okay. Now, as you see, I can put the reactivation here, which is quite high. This is essentially what you need to get. So what you want to do is the upsell sequence is you want to essentially go through, put in these numbers and just make it make sense. All right. And one of the most lethal numbers that you'll be able to use in your pitch is down here, traffic loss value. So this is essentially saying, all right, so you're spending $240,000 a month on ads. $232,000 is wasted every single month when you do that, right? And it's like, that's a huge one. That gets people teary-eyed. So essentially what we'll do is we'll put this into an email, all right? So I'll highlight the bits. So it's like, this is how it looks, all right? This is what you'd send to him. If you don't put the pixel on the website, you could replace this with a hypothetical. Like, hi, I've got another brand that I did this for and I placed the pixel and we're able to do this. This is what I think we could do for you, okay? So, hi, I placed a pixel on the site. We're able to match 2,900 people from just 10,000 visitors. This means we're wasting approximately $232,800 a month on average as a conversion rate of 3%. So it's a huge chunk of people we never speak to. I spoke with the team, and this is where you set up the upsell. And with the right retargeting sequence in place, I believe we can get 15% back of these recovered visitors into appointments. And then based on your current sales conversion rate, that is 10 additional sales per month, over $18,000 in extra revenue you could bring in, right? I spoke to our team. Now, actually, I'll adjust that because that's the profit. Obviously, that's actually going to be 24,000. And then we can add our part there. But I'll make sure I put this in before I send it over to you guys. Spoke to the team internally and won't require too much additional bandwidth on our end. Would you be open to a proposal of how we can apply this? And either we can slightly increase our fee for the tracking and the data, or we can just do a performance fee to cover these visitors back. Let me know and we can start right away. And then you send that email. And you're going to get a good response to that email. We've sent variations of this. I've never actually like put it into just a template that you can just copy and paste, but it works. It works very, very well. So quick temp check. Who's still with me? Drop me a yes, drop me a no. Cool. Cool, cool. All right, nice. So the next question you're going to ask is probably, all right, so you sit down with the client and it's like, well, how do I, pitch this? How do I get them across the line? Now, the most important thing with your client is this is still a hypothetical forecast because you haven't worked with them yet. But what I find is really cool about this is most agencies and most people are going to, come and say, oh, yeah, we can do this. And I guarantee no one's broken down stats like this before where they're like, oh my gosh, like, because you can play around with these numbers. Okay. So let's say for an example, say sit down with a client, you got this in front of them, you got your brand here. And what you do is you say, okay, so this is your sales conversion rate. Yep. This is your cost per acquisition. Yep. If they don't know the cost per acquisition, instead of being like hung up and be like, oh shit, like how am I going to finish this? You just basically be like, you don't know your cost per acquisition. And they're like, yeah. And then that's when you have to be like, all right, well, this is not good. Like you should know this. And that's where you can kind of run a hypothetical and just say, well, let's say it's this much, right? And usually make it, I would say, you want to make sure on average they're making 1.5x what the ad spend is. Okay, so $800 is a pretty fair estimate. Then what you want to do is you can leave that. I'd put that around 30%, maybe even 20%. You want to be on the low end. Keep that around 80%. That's fine. This is the number that you really need to, is important. And this is something that you need to agree on. What I really like about this style is it's an easy way to upsell them because you'll be like, okay, so in order for you to make this much back, and what you can do is actually remove this. And then, so you can remove this and you can remove this and you can remove this for now. And basically all you need to do is you just need to be like, all right, so this needs to be at least 15% for you to make this back. You say if this drops to 10%, obviously you make less. If it goes to 5%, you make less. If it goes to like 3%, you make less, right? You say our goal is 10% at least, or maybe our goal is 15%, which is absolutely possible, right? So if you're doing, again, this is not you send one email and that's it. This is going to be an email series and it's across the whole, and you should be able to get around 15%. The important thing is to stress with the client that, look, this is a team effort. Do you think you could get this through your own devices? Do you think I could just give you the leads and you call them and you can get 15%? If I give you 349 people, and you reach out to them and you send them to your sales team, do you think you could get at least 15% of them to become leads again? And if they're like, yeah, we could do that easy, be like, all right, no worries. Well, what we'll do is I'll just do a license fee. So you just pay us $1,000 a month, and you're still making $23,000 a month. And they're like, okay, cool. And you can just settle that way. But most of the time they're going to be like, oh, we don't have the bandwidth for that. What should we do? Do you have anything? Do you have a sequence? You're like, yeah, we do. What we can do is we can add that. So we've got the pixel fee, and we can add that for, $2,000 a month. I think that's what it costs me. Like, it's a little bit more on the expensive side, but we're going to do it right. We're going to do it compliant. Say whatever you want. Obviously tell the truth. You are going to do it right, and you're going to do it compliant. And then you're going to be like, and look, and then for every sale we bring in, if I can just get 5%, and I'm even happy to lower this to like $1,000 if you give me 5%, then this is what I reckon we can do. Right now, this is pretty high because you're like charging quite a bit, but you want to make the numbers make sense. Okay. Oh, how did they get to 10,000? There we go. So essentially what you're doing is you're just finessing the numbers with the client, and you're doing something you can both agree on. Because the worst thing you can do is come in blazing and be like, yeah, I can get you, I can guarantee you 15% reactivation rate, blah, 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 because you don't really know their business. So what you do is you say, look, we need to get this in order for this to make sense. Can your sales team deliver on that? And if they say yes, then sweet. You just earn yourself like a client where you can just add a pixel fee and leave it there. What's cool about this as well is if they're like, no, 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 I can do it. I don't need your help. Just give me the pixel. I'll do the reactivation on my end. It's like, okay, cool. So you can put the pixel on their site, you can go, and I guarantee after about 1 or 2 months, they're not going to hit this unless they have experience in just decent emails and copywriting, depending what kind of business they are. And it turns a negative into a positive. Because instead of them coming back and be like, oh, this sucks, I can't get any money from this, blah, 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 or I've only been able to convert a few people, you can be like, well, I said at the start, that's why I use my sequence. And then you can easily upsell them. So you can either upsell on the call or you can upsell later, but it's going to turn a negative into a positive. And the key to this is just being as transparent as possible. Once they know the numbers, like, this is what we need. If we're going to get this doesn't make sense. And if they're like, there's no way in hell we've ever gotten that in the history of our entire business, then you might need to reconfigure some stuff, and maybe you do need to do a traffic switch. But this should work easily, right? Because what I like about this as well is it's not some pitch and then like it's not some like big build up and it's like, all right, the total price of this will be $5,000. And because then they're just thinking like $5,000, shit, like that's like a lot. Like I could go to an agency and they'd be like $500 from Fiverr or something like that. They're not thinking like that. You're building the price into how much you're going to be making them back. Okay. So it's a very easy way to be able to upsell clients. All right. Who's still with me? Any questions just on this before we jump into the next section? I'm not sharing the pixel forecast yet because I just want to make sure I like test all the numbers. I know these are right, but my OCD kicks in. I want to make sure everybody's doing this correctly. I don't want anyone just going on like wrong numbers, but it will be sent out in the end. Is it resonating with you guys? You guys enjoying this? Cool, cool. All right. Who feels confident they could upsell a client with this? And doesn't have to, you don't have to be in DAX on this. You can literally just like, if you have a client and you're running Facebook ads, you can easily upsell a client to like $3,000 a month doing this if you have the stats right. Okay. Now, obviously, this is a bit of an extreme example, like they're spending $240,000 a month on ads. right? I'll go into a less extreme example and I'll show you about audience syncing. But these are two easy strategies. Okay, let's get into the traffic switch forecast. All right, so let's go up to here. So that's that one. And basically, just to recap, we send the email. We're like, cool, we reckon we can do this. We collect some stats. Then we go through and we can just run a hypothetical. You don't have to put the pixel on their website. You can run a hypothetical and you can say, this is what we'd need. But the idea is to set it up where you're saying, this is what we could get. And then it's saying, would you be open to this? And then giving them a call and then kind of negotiating the numbers together. All right. So let's get into another hypothetical. And I'll try to make this one a little bit more realistic on a smaller business. Okay. So I just made up a brand. Just Click is actually a pretty sick name. Just Click is an advertising agency that helps clients with their social media. They spend $20,000 per month with Google Ads with an average site conversion rate of 10%. Then of those leads, 20% will close. They spend roughly $5 cost per click on high intent keywords like social media marketing management. All right. So how are we gonna help them? This is a pretty standard client. So what we're going to do, and what I recommend you do, if you don't know what their keywords are, and you don't know the exact keywords and how much it is cost per click, you can use a tool called Keywords Everywhere in Chrome. And essentially it's just a Chrome extension. And what you can do is it's free. And you can type a keyword in Google and then you can just see like what the average cost per click is. So you can do that to run a forecast in terms of like what you think the cost per click is for that client. This works really well in niches that clients are spending a lot of money on SEO, clients are spending a lot of money on Google. Maybe they're, you can even show it with value with like them doing some like cold outbound stuff too, like the costs that they're actually paying out in commissions. Yes, there will be a replay. So let's say they're spending $20,000 a month on ads. Their sales conversion rate, so the actual sales from the leads is 15%. Their site conversion rate is 5%. Offer value is $1,500. And their cost per click is $5, which is pretty standard. So 4,000 clicks generates 200 leads, generates 30 sales, $45,000 revenue, a CPA of $666. So we look at, can we beat this? Okay. Like this is where it's like, can we beat it? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the keywords, we're going to build a custom model and we're going to put it into Facebook, or you can do other things, but email, etc. But Facebook is going to be by far the easiest one to crack. It may take a little bit. And again, if they already have something going, you can just take their Google ads, switch it over to Facebook, something like that. But what we're going to do is we're like, all right, cool. So we've got that. We're going to put that at 0 for now. And then we just need to focus on these stats here. Now on Facebook, you're either going to have really high CPM, really high click-through rate, or a lower CPM and an average click-through rate. I find those are the signs of like a healthy campaign. But what we're going to do is we're going to set this at around $40 CPM, 3% click-through rate, which you definitely can get, and a 5% conversion rate because that's what they're already getting. So if we did that, essentially, if you go down here, they're spending $5,333 to generate the same amount of revenue. And we're dropping their CPA by 73%. What's even cool about this is if they were to spend the same amount with us on this forecast, they would make $168,000, which is insane. So this could be, I even might drop this down, maybe make this like 2%. Let's just see how this works here. Even that is good. Like I'll make that there, maybe put this to $50. Maybe chuck this to 60. Yeah. Like you can see here, when you take the intent audiences, and Facebook ads, you can get it a lot cheaper. All right. So let's say a 40% drop in CPA. That's still really good. So this is the first email that you send them. So, sorry, you sent the first email, and then this is what you come in with. Okay. So I started analyzing what audience we could use outside of Just, and you put the channel there and managed to find over X amount of people over X amount of days who are actively searching for, and then you put in their keyword. To put into comparison, this type of intent traffic has a value of, and then you put a cost per click, and you can find that through Keywords Anywhere, anything like that. Again, this doesn't have to be something where you go into their ad account. You can use hypotheticals if you really want, okay? If you say, oh, if you're paying, this is how much on average people pay per click if they're using these types of keywords. I believe I can drop the CPA by 65% using the data through Facebook ads versus just using Google ads. This means instead of spending $20,000 per month to generate $45,000, you could be generating X amount. I put together a forecast of the difference you can make and what KPIs to focus on. Do you have some time to go over it on Monday? And then when you're on the call, this is where you sit down and you say, well, this is what I've figured out, right? And I think I can get this. Now, the work that's going to go into this is we're going to have to obviously we can just license you the audience, right? So if you have somebody on your team that is confident with Facebook ads, then, I can basically just rent you all the data and you should be good to go. And you're still making a lot of money, right? You're still crushing it. And if they're like, no, can you set it up for me? You're like, yeah, I can. What I'll do is I'll drop this down to like $500 or so, $1,000 retainer. Usually for this, I do about 5,000. I'll make this 2,500. I'm not going to take performance yet. Let's wait until we get this at least, I would say 35% drop, and then we can add performance on there, right? It doesn't matter. Like they're still making more than they were before. The CPA is still dropping. I mean, by this, it's still 35% cost drop. All right. And then that's it. And then you get into it. Now, the big thing about this is, as I've said on both of these forecasts, is we're not breaking it up where we're not saying it's treated as like a negotiation. We're not like, oh yeah, so, this, leading it up, big pitch, that Sam Oven silence for like 30 seconds, and then like, oh, why do you want to do it? Like, it's literally just going through and it's like, I looked at the numbers, I put here's what we could get. And you're showing them, here's what we can do. But what you're doing is you're removing the ambiguity and you're just using transparency and you're saying, this is what you'd actually need to get in order to get to this. I can help you get there, or I can provide something to help you get there, but this is what you need, right? So if you come in here and you go, okay, so to make this work, so if I'm not, before I add on any price, right? Let's say I haven't added on any price. So I'm going to put this as 0, put this as 0. Just say, so look, you're spending $25,000 a month. You are generating about $45,000 revenue, CPA of $666, which is pretty good. I reckon that I can take this same audience with my data, and on Facebook, I can get you down to about CPA $400. So 40% drop, which means you can spend that same amount and make $75,000 instead of just $40,000, which is pretty sweet. Now, to do this, I would need to essentially get a CPM of $60, which is more than possible, an average click-through rate of 2%, and the same kind of conversion rate you have. If your website's already converting on Google Ads, I'm sure it's going to convert on this. Maybe we'll make a few adjustments, but this is what I would need to get. Now, in order to get a really decent CPM, I'm going to need to test a few audiences with my media buyer. And in order to get a decent click-through rate, I'm going to need to test a few creatives. Now, for me to put these together, the creatives and the audience, and basically just manage that account, essentially what I'll do is I will just need to charge a management fee. It's completely up to you. What I can do is I can give you the audience and you can do it yourself and you can still get these results, right? And you'll still make quite a lot of money. If you want me to do it for you, I can come in with a retainer, right, $1,500 a month. I can have my team manage it and you're still dropping that CPA by 35%, right? And you just break it down to your client. You let the numbers kind of tell the story, because you can't really, like, what's the objection to that? The objection that is, oh, it's a bit expensive. And it's like, okay, well, let's just remove it. That's all good. And we'll just do that. You just need to hit those metrics though. That's the thing. And they're like, oh, we'll just continue with Google Ads. It's like, all right, well, this is what you're missing out on. Like, you could spend double on Google Ads, or you could open this traffic channel and you could do this. Okay. So this is the traffic switch. Now, if you were to do this on a cold context, what you could do is you could literally just find people that are spending money on Google Ads. Like, you could just go, I'll find some softwares you can do that with, and then you can just find them through Audience Lab by doing an enrichment, or you can just find those businesses. But really, the way this is mostly designed is for an upsell, but you can do it to clients that, or prospective clients you're speaking to. Let's say you were speaking to a fishing shop a couple weeks ago, and they, you tried to charge them X amount, and you didn't really go for the numbers, and they're like, oh, we'll think about it, blah blah. You could easily come in with this reactivation sequence and be able to get them on. The idea is building trust and showing transparency of like, this is the numbers and this is what we can do, and kind of going through it together and then figuring out, okay, this is what we need to get to. Now, I repeat, and I want to really emphasize this, do not say, I guarantee these numbers, because you don't know their business. There's so many things that could happen. They could have the ad account could be completely just trashed, right? Like they could have a Facebook ad account. And they're like, let's use mine. And they ran terrible ads from there. And Facebook can give bad performance to ad accounts. Like your ad account can make a difference. It could be where it just takes 2 weeks for the audiences to hit. As soon as you're on the audience, maybe it just takes a little bit. It could be that, there's so many different variables. So the best thing to do is say, this is what we want to get to, and this is how I'm going to base my cost structure. Are you good to go? Right. And if they're like, oh, but can you guarantee these stats? It'd be like, well, I can show you exactly what's needed to get to these. I can't guarantee them because I don't know your business, but if we can get these stats, we can get to there. It's simple math. It's simple as that. So email, start analyzing audiences. Again, I fill out those parts. And those are the 2 upsell sequences. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing really good. All right. Any questions on this one? Let's have a look here. Yeah, you can use these audiences inside of Google Ads. The only thing is, it's like, it's kind of like, well, because they're already spending money on Google Ads, right? They're spending money on a certain keyword, and then you're using the intent. It's like it's not going to really make that much of a difference if they're already bidding on that keyword. It could drop the costs to be less for that keyword. Now, you could take that and you could do like display or something, but honestly, I would say it's better to actually just shift them from using the same intent on Google Ads and then moving it over to Facebook. Um, that's an easier sell. Now, if they're like, no, 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 we want to stay on Google, then you could do it with that, and they could maybe bid on broader keywords. I'll have to think about in terms of the best way to position that. But it's like, if I'm spending X amount on a specific keyword and then I'm using intent data on top of that, I'm not sure if that's going to drop the cost of the keyword because I'm already bidding on that keyword. But I could be wrong. But yeah, we have had people use this in Google Ads and see a significant cost drop. Still average around 40-50%. It just depends how much. I find Google Ads a little bit more tricky. So it just depends on how sold they are on that. And again, you could still apply this. I haven't done like the forecast on it, but you could apply something else. You could be like, well, what if we just did outbound on this? The whole idea is getting them to open up another traffic source is cheaper. Targeting audience, can we target language-based people, like people from Hispanic countries, people from Mexico based in the US data? I'll have to check on that. That would require, I think we have, so we are shifting and re-adding and doing a few of the attributes. And I'll check to see if we have anything on language and that type of thing. Client is planning on doing it via display ads. Oh yeah, you can do it via display ads. Display ads are pretty cheap, and essentially you want to have the intent audience and have it display ads. The only thing is if the audience isn't big enough, and the client is spending like Google's charging them more cost per click, that's the only pitfall. What's good about Facebook is you paying cost per impression. So I find that it's quicker to get it right. With Google though, I think it's a lot less volatile. So it might take a little bit longer, but once it's set, it's set. All right, any other questions? I'll get into some technical stuff in a little bit. Just want to make sure I keep it on this for all those watching the recording. Otherwise, should be good. All right, sweet. So, who here, like, give me a score 1 out of 5, how confident you would be upselling either an existing client, a client you've been speaking to, someone that you're in some kind of contact with. Give me 1 out of 5. 1 being, I have no idea. I'm gonna have to watch this 20 times to even get an understanding. 5 being, yeah, I can do this tomorrow. 5, 5, 5. Excellent. 1. That's all right. You came in late. You can just rewatch it. All right, so I'm gonna come back to that. 1 learned 5 because it came in late. That's all right. Cool. Okay, so let me start wrapping up. Cool. So I'm gonna quickly pause the recording. Pause watching home.